Yeah, I guess we can get started.
Okay.
I'm glad all of you came this evening. I'm Annette Armstrong, I'm the library director, and I'm really pleased to present Kelly Burke, our state representative, and Bill Cunningham, our state senator. Now, this duo represents Palos Hills.
I'm an attorney by profession, but I don't practice anymore. And in fact, in the 5 years before I went to the legislature, I worked at St. Xavier University doing fundraising.
Bill Cunningham, the state senator for the 18th district, and my district includes all the areas that Kelly mentioned and a little bit more, areas of Orland Park, Marinette Park, Alsip, and otherwise it covers pretty much all the same towns that Kelly mentioned.
You may have heard that there's a pension crisis in Illinois. Maybe you heard that once or twice. So we're doing a lot of work on trying to work our way through that focus. So I would say those are the three biggest things we've worked on this session.
Unfortunately, there aren't any good decisions. We spend a lot of our time choosing the least bad option. So I feel like what we do all the time down in Springfield, particularly when it comes to issues involving the pension. So if we'd like to turn it over to you guys and see what's on your mind.
One of the things being thrown out down there is that the teacher pensions are not going to be funded by the state, and they're going to be thrown back to the school districts, which is going to be horrendous to the property tax bills that we're going to be paying. I'd like to know where you both stand on that.
Yeah, I think it's a good plan. There was a lot of opposition about this time last year. There was a lot of talk, as Kelly mentioned, there's just a complete cost shift, and there was just not support for that in the General Assembly, and it was something that we both had problems with too. But I think it's been worked on to the point where it's very doable for the school districts.
The amount that would be shifted, it would maybe turn out to be 1/3% of payroll per year. I think that's a cost that the school districts can absorb without saying that they have to have a property tax.
Of the 5 major pension systems, I know the primary focus is on having teachers pay more and having them, work longer. It's all about teachers. So in the event of shared sacrifice, I mean, what about closing corporate loopholes? Or, I mean, is any of that discussed, or is it just like focus on this one group?
So it's not, I'm guessing you're a teacher? Okay, it's not just teachers. So it's state university employees, it's all state employees, and it's the General Assembly. For some legal strategy reasons so far, the judges who also have a state pension, but they have their own system, have not been brought into it. But it's not just teachers.
We have to be careful about how we do it, because if you base the whole funding mechanism, or a big chunk of it, on closing corporate loopholes, which sounds great, who's against closing corporate loopholes? But one loophole closes, another one opens up. One that they're proposed is decoupling the state from tax breaks that the federal government gives, which is, I think, a good idea. But so you close that one, the federal tax code has a bunch of other loopholes that companies could jump through.
Now I'm hearing more and more in the newspapers and in the media that, oh, this is going to be rolled over into some permanent thing. And when they were doing this, we were promised by the Senate leader and the House leader that this was going to solve all our problems. And it hasn't seemed to solve anything. And my question is, where do you guys stand on this phasing out this 63%?
Not quite a coincidence that tax increase, the temporary tax increase, brings in about $7 billion a year in additional revenue to the state. Well, guess how much money in this fiscal year that's ending in a couple months, guess how much money is going to go to the pensions when you include general revenue fund contributions and borrowing? $7 billion. So that's where, and we talk about shared sacrifice, there has been, that taxes were increased, and most of that money has gone to pay pensions. As far as what's going to happen with the income tax, I'm not a fan of the way of the temporary income tax increase, or generally speaking on how we tax in the state of Illinois. We have a flat tax in the state of Illinois that treats everyone the same. Unlike the federal tax code, where we have a graduated income tax, where we ask wealthy people to pay a higher percentage of their income, and poorer people to pay a lower percentage of their income, and middle income people pay somewhere in between. That's what I would like to see happen. And I think if we put that in place, we could phase out the temporary income tax, and we would have a situation where taxes for, I think, the majority of people in this room, your taxes would go down.
It's a combination of fiscal mismanagement on the spending side, but also maybe some not very modern taxing policies on our taxing side too. So, yes?
You know, the solution seems to be for everything more money, whether it's temporary or permanent. If it's temporary, as much as you want it to be temporary, it will wind up being permanent. 95% of the time, maybe 90% of the time, I don't have those facts, but almost all of those things that are increased, that are supposed to be for a finite period of time, wind up being permanent. It's money,
Right.
you know, and
Well,
we
I'll
don't
tell
have
you,
unlimited money as people, as a government.
you started out talking about temporary taxes, whether they become permanent. The state has twice done temporary income taxes. Once it's sunset without it being raised. The other time it was made permanent, and it was made permanent after the 1990 gubernatorial election. Jim Edgar ran saying that he wanted to make it permanent, and he got elected, so it stayed permanent. You're going to have the same opportunity, I think, in 2 years. The next governor's election, one of the centerpieces of that election, is going to be the temporary income tax. So you'll have a chance to vote. You know, I think that'll be one of the main issues. And we'll see if one candidate is for it and the other against it, which I think likely would be the case. You know, then you'll get to vote, and whoever wins that policy, I think, is the policy that'll take effect.
Internet gambling, legalizing internet gambling as opposed to the illegal internet gambling.
Yeah,
We don't have
one of the things that was sort of added, you know, there's been out there a couple of gaming expansion bills that have been around for a couple of years and haven't had enough, or one did pass and Governor Quinn vetoed it. But there was a new proposal that was put out by the President of the Senate, John Cullerton, and that was for something called iGaming, they call it, which is essentially, like you said, online gaming. You could go online and play poker or other casino games. Online would be licensed by the state would get the proceeds. An estimated $50 million a year, which he proposes to go to TRS, to the Teachers Retirement System, was the proposal. Hasn't been voted on yet. That's what's out there. Now the logic behind that, and it's the logic behind any gaming expansion, I think, and you raise a very significant point that there is a societal price to pay for gaming and the expansion of gaming on young people and anyone. So, and that's a concern we have to have. I think, though, that the problem is, and this, the rationale behind the expansion is that it's already happening. We have 3 casinos, you know, within a, depending on traffic, a 15-mile drive of the city of Chicago limits in Indiana. And we have just untold millions of dollars coming out of the Illinois economy and going into the Indiana economy because of it. And I think that that's something that would be a good public policy to stop. We have expansive gaming going on the internet right now that is unregulated, is going to offshore accounts in the Virgin Islands. That's happening, that's out there, very available. We can pull up Google on my iPhone right now and start gambling if we wanted to. This idea is that it's captured by the state and the revenue, it's regulated, there's limits to how much someone can bet. You know, you can't lose more than $200 in one 24-hour period, and that the government gets the revenue. So that's justification behind it.